All right, Phelim. So what's on the menu today? I think it's race reflections. We had three different races: Boyne, Dunshaughlin, and Derryva. Three different wins as well, and then probably three different reflections coming out of it. So we'll start off with Boyne. You had HT running. He won, but he was kind of going for a time, going for a course record.
Yeah. So yeah, I was on again. We're heavily kind of focused on this type of racing and race results, and then I actually ended up being at all of them, which just kind of helps with this type of reflection rather than just jargon really.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ishii was going for a time, and Boyne, he was going to be the fastest runner in the field, but he wanted to get trying a course record set time. So again, that one, the point is going out too hard ends up generally leaving you in debt. So you've got to have, and that depends on your confidence and your overall fitness, whether you can pay the price for a hard early effort, and then the psychology then of being left out on your own. It's hard to sustain a pace. So ultimately you'd need to read the course profile. That had a downhill finish. His first K was fast, but also included an uphill, whereas you kind of have to bank on being able to finish faster on the downhill section. So yeah, managing the effort and kind of being able to finish faster in the back end of the race is really going to get your time. Realistically, the proof is in the pudding. The more you look at people, as I have written on a note here, is like generally going too fast at the start leaves you in debt, whereas being a touch more conservative, feeling the body and having the energy, you can close faster.
Then Dunshaughlin, Sean won, but from what we heard after and before the race, he seemed a bit tired. So obviously the goal was to win. You kind of have to go about it a different way. How does he win? Does he put in surges? What did you kind of get from that?
Yeah, well, you had the pre, and I had kind of I hadn't really been speaking to him. I saw him live outside the pub, but at the first mile marker, and he was in a race with Shea McAvoy and John Travers, and then William Fitzgerald and Gavin Curtin were behind. But I just said to him, just win the bloody race.
Yeah, that's it.
And that wasn't prior to my knowledge of then. That's exactly what he did, and that was the plan with you. And he told me afterwards that he was tired, and he used surges to kind of break up the pack and have enough energy at the end. So again, being tired, the focus is one, you have to race to how you feel on the day. So I had, again, David Connie, another runner, ran in the Boyne the day before. He was tired, set out too hard, whereas maybe listen to feel again, whereas that's what Sean did well.
Yeah.
He used the surges to win the race and try and break down the pack. And as you had mentioned, like John Travers had beaten him in a kick finish in the Bob Heffernan 5K. So there, how do you break, John Travers or Shea McAvoy and have a gap? And he was able to just close it out. Actually, I think I saw Shea McAvoy was actually kicking and closing in, but the damage was done with the surges in the final uphill.
So that's kind of squeezing at key points. So probably losing John earlier, maybe then pushing in mid-pack where Shea might have stayed on and could have kicked harder, but he kind of got rid of him by that stage. So his finish didn't matter as much.
Yeah, the psychology of a gap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which will play into this next thing of how do you get a gap and then how do you hold a gap?
Yeah, and managing that probably brings you on more to Mark and Derryva. 10-mile race, so longer race. You can let gaps go out more and you can close gaps probably a bit easier. What did you notice for him?
Yeah, well, he was running against Andy Nevin, a great racer on the scene, and he always races aggressively. So he literally tore out of the traps, had a gap on Mark, and it was a tough first 3 miles.
Yeah.
It was very steep, so he had a gap. So everybody is in the hurt locker. So it's hard when you're in a hurt locker, it's very hard psychologically, just relax thing. When it's hard to relax when you're running up a hill, there's no easy way up it. But to keep Andy in his eye line, because at different points he easily could have just gotten enough of a gap. The country roads, you've gone around the corner, you can't see him and the head will go. Some people are stronger mentally than others, and then when you're, let's say like Mark, not an experienced racer, which this is what a key thing that we're trying to focus on, is getting people better at actual racing rather than just a time goal all the time, so that you can get better and enjoy your racing actually better as well. So basically there was a gap there. Mark only really caught him up at 6 miles, and on one level he could have let the gap go to that he couldn't see Andy, but then again you're psychologically losing your confidence. And I think, as you said, like even in cycling, like a 10-second gap is like a minute if you can't see
if you can't see them. It's the mentality of being the chaser rather than the chase. Like if you can get around and kind of push on, even just you were saying key points, if you can push on around the corner so that the person behind you can't see, it might be a mental, you know, win for you.
Yeah.
And then for Mark was obviously just, you were kind of saying, keep him in sight, because then you can see him, you can try and chase him, and the mentality around that makes sense.
Yeah, and as he coming a yard or two closer, it's still a long race. And again, even with that, you know, patience is really key. Like even as a coach, if you're on the bike or you're standing, or you can get point to point or whatever, you can get kind of emotional, and you're kind of like, right, just dig in, push now.
Yeah.
But it's like, right, it's really about relaxation. And you know, the Kenny Rogers line, knowing when to hold him, knowing when to fold, knowing when to walk away, knowing when to run. But it's also like knowing when to hold, knowing when to push.